Really excited about getting back into the competitive world. It's a Hall of Honor weekend, get an opportunity to honor some Steeler legends.
A terrible power is poised to strike, so are the Steelers.
On the run, here comes a big man, Heath Miller.
Now we'll be
We got a significant week in front of us. We're excited about doing it. We tend to talk less and let our play speak for us.
Definitely found things with Coach Sully, things that I want to improve on. Just getting, mastering the offense as a whole, using the entire offense. Ways for us to get down the field more and be more explosive, which I can definitely help with. So there's a lot of things. So it was definitely productive off week.
Hi everybody, I'm Missi Matthews and welcome to the matchup show presented by Unibet. The Steelers bye week is over. It's time for week 10 in the second half of their 2022 season. The New Orleans Saints are coming to town. Let's welcome in Mike Prisuta of the DVE Morning Show and also Steelers.com. And we also have Dale Lolley, a Steelers.com contributor as well, and also on SNR to talk about it. Mike, let's start with the Steelers offense. You heard there from quarterback Kenny Pickett, but one of the things that they need to get back to is running the ball. So are the Steelers rested and ready to run?
They should be rested, ready to run, stay tuned. But yeah, I think that's got to be job one, resuming things after the bye. We still haven't seen them consistently run the ball well enough in the last season plus to set up the play action pass and all the things that can come off of that. I think Najee Harris is a really underperforming asset that they need to get straightened out because he can do so much more than they're getting out of him right now. And that's going to make life way easier on the rookie quarterback. So yeah, run the ball, Missy.
Dale, do you see Jalen Warren, getting some more snaps based off of what you heard from Coach Tomlin on Tuesday?
More snaps, I don't know about. Maybe a little more usage because he's been out there a lot on third downs and in long situations. They've used him in the passing game a little bit. They just need more period from the running game in terms of usage. Najee Harris averaged over 18 carries a game last season. This year it's at 13.5. They just have to stay more consistent with the running game. If you look at the overall numbers, they're averaging a full yard more than what they averaged all of last season. But then when you take a deeper look at that, they've already gotten 128 rushing yards out of their quarterbacks. They got 58 rushing yards all of last season out of their quarterbacks, and 53 of that came from Mason Rudolph. So, most games they didn't get anything out of their quarterbacks in terms of running the football. This year they are, and yet the numbers are pretty similar. They need more production out of that backfield. Whether it be Harris, whether it be Warren, really doesn't matter. They just need to get better at it and do it more.
Yeah, I think they really, one of the things that's gone well this season, or according to plan, is they discovered that complementary back to Najee Harris that they were looking for in Jalen Warren. I think the breakdown's about 70% and 35%, 35-69, something along those lines. I think the snaps are being distributed the way they need to be. Warren has been more productive. Some of that has been circumstantial. Matt Canada and Eddie Faulkner acknowledged that last week. But I keep going back to Najee Harris. Got to get him going. I still think this is a special player. I think he's got a ton of potential. I know they have been counting on him. They were counting on him going into this season to be one of the focal points of the offense and be one of the leaders and one of the faces of the team, so to speak. And it has not worked out from a production standpoint. They got to find the answer to that, whether it's the offensive line, the play selection, Harris being tentative, Harris being indecisive, something else, all of the above. Hopefully they spent a lot of time since that game in Philadelphia trying to solve that one, because I think that could really impact this offense.
Yeah, and it makes things easier on your rookie quarterback if you're actually able to run the football, Mike. We've seen some teams this year, Atlanta and some of these other teams, that you look at what they're doing at quarterback, and it's not necessarily that they're real explosive. I mean, Atlanta's throwing the ball about 22 times a game, but they're running the football. and it doesn't seem to matter who's in there. So, you know, you can do that in today's day and age, surprisingly enough.
Yeah, Tennessee's doing a little of that too.
Right, yeah. You cover up, you know, maybe for a little bit of your quarterback who's still learning the game.
Mike, we just saw the stats there for Kenny Pickett, the 8 interceptions. He talked about those yesterday and how that will not be the case moving forward. Is it fair to say we will see improvements from the rookie based on the fact when he was thrown in, it was the middle of the game and then a very tough stretch of opponents?
Yeah, I think we will, just for a couple of reasons, Missy. I think just every snap of in-helmet experience is going to benefit Kenny Pickett. I think some of those interceptions have been circumstantial. There was the Hail Mary at the end of the one game, tip ball here, tip ball there. I was in agreement with Pickett when he talked yesterday about, yeah, I've thrown some interceptions, but it's not as if I'm not understanding the coverage and not seeing something out there. I think that stuff will start to smooth out the further they get along. And also, the schedule is going to lighten up. And I know they're all NFL players and they're all on scholarship and any given Sunday and all that, but you know, you got a better chance of throwing an interception at Buffalo, I think, than at Carolina.
And to your point, Mike, you know, I think if you look at the breakdown, you know, the games that Mitch Trubisky started early in the year versus the games that Kenny Pickett has started, they're averaging about 40 more yards overall per game in those Trubisky starts. So he has moved the football. It's just a matter of, you know, not getting those turnovers. And to your point, some of those were very circumstantial. Trying to make a play late in games, you know, when you're behind, you're going to be a little less clean with the football in those situations.
All right, this will be the first game without Chase Claypool. The Steelers traded him to the Chicago Bears. Last game he played for them was in Philadelphia. So the middle of the field where the coaches saw where Chase was playing a lot, Pat Freiermuth, the tight ends, maybe getting some more snaps because of that. And before we talk about that, here's a little preview of the tight ends in this upcoming episode of The Standard.
It's a collection of guys that put their hand in the dirt, but also stand up on a two-point and run routes. So.
And that is Zach Gentry, all 6 feet 12, on his way.
Oh, what a great tight end screen. He can ramble, baby.
I feel like being a tight end is tough because you have to know the blocking schemes, the protections, the routes. So there's a lot on our plate. I think we definitely deserve our own day.
You know, it's a unique position, obviously, like Zach said. I think, you know, we have to run routes, we have to block, we have to pass protect, we have to do all the 3 main things on offense. And I think that, you know, it's kind of looked down upon because earlier in, you know, the NFL days, they were kind of not known as being dual threat tight ends who can run block and pass catch, and it was just kind of really just run blocking tight ends. But now that, you know, guys like Tony Gonzalez and, you know, Kelsey and Gronk and those guys kind of changed the position, changed how they utilize the tight end. So it's definitely a cool up and coming position in the NFL.
All right, you can catch the full episode of The Standard Friday night at 7 p.m. on the Steelers official YouTube page. Number 88 that we see there, Mike, what are your expectations for him moving forward without Claypool?
Who's number 83 in this tight ends feature?
Well, we're going to celebrate him this weekend.
Okay, as long as we get to him.
Okay.
My expectations for Pat Freiermuth are through the roof. I think he's also being underutilized or underperforming relative to what I think he's capable of. The whole Claypool thing to me isn't about the middle of the field as much as it is about just getting the ball more to George Pickens, more to Pat Freiermuth, and more to Deontay Johnson. And maybe it simplifies it a little bit for Kenny Pickett because there's one less choice to ponder while you're trying to do things 1,000 miles an hour and figure things out as you go along. I think they have a wealth of talent in all 3 of those guys that I just mentioned, and they got to get them all the ball more.
Yeah, I agree, Mike. I think Pat Freiermuth has to get at least 10 targets a game. I think he's that kind of talent. You know, I think he's right there, you know, with some of the other top tight ends in the NFL, you know, Goddard and Ertz, and maybe not to the level of you know, what the Chiefs do with Travis Kelce or things of that nature, but certainly he's very talented. You know, he's again, just in year 2, I think a lot of untapped potential there. And, you know, why not tap into that potential here in the second half of the season?
Mike, is this a favorable matchup for the Steelers offense based off of what the Saints defense has presented through the first half of the season?
You know, based on the average points per game, I'm not going to say there's a favorable matchup out there, but it's not Buffalo in Buffalo. It's New Orleans in Pittsburgh, and the Saints have been banged up at corner. They had a couple of injuries on Monday night against the Ravens, including one of their really outstanding inside linebackers, Pete Warner. defensive end, got hurt. I'm not sure of the status of those guys heading into this game, but if the Steelers can handle one-on-one coverage and press man coverage, there ought to be some opportunities. The other thing that really struck me watching the Saints-Ravens game was Baltimore's ability to gradually wear New Orleans down with the running game. Ravens ended up running for, I think, 188 yards. The vast majority of that was in the second half. Now, a couple things played into that. All the tricks the Ravens do with the motions and the fake handoffs and the the stupid human tricks they do with the ball, the window dressing. Lamar Jackson also factors in, very good running quarterback. But if you keep pounding at these guys, I think you can break through. And playing with a lead, again, would help you do that.
Yeah, I agree, Mike. And I think when you look at this New Orleans defense, they've only forced 2 interceptions this year, both by Tyrann Mathieu. So you can attack these guys in the secondary and maybe do so with a little less. You don't want to be the team that does throw one to one of those other guys, but if they don't have Marshawn Lattimore, who didn't practice on Wednesday and hasn't played the last few weeks, I mean, that's a big deal, for their secondary, because he's the one guy that you look at that is a top-notch corner. Without him, it's Mathieu, and you can kind of just stay away from him.
All right, it is time now for our Week 10 opening lines from across the league.
Favorite part of the show.
Presented by Unibet Sportsbook, an official sportsbook partner of the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you're in Pennsylvania and ready to place your wagers on any of this weekend's matchups, download the Unibet PA app or visit pa.unibet.com. Coming up here on the Matchup Show, what's next? We'll talk about TJ Watt, his possible return on Sunday, and what that means for the Steelers defense. Don't go anywhere.
You add TJ to the mix, he's going to open things up. Cam's not going to get the protection slid to him as much. Alex won't get it slid to him as much. So now all of a sudden they're going to be maybe in some more one-on-one situations than maybe they haven't been in the last few weeks. And that's really, really what happens when you have that. It's the same way we would plan for a great player. You try to make sure that he's not wrecking the game for you, and so you provide resources to help people, and it opens up some other people sometimes.
Welcome back to the Matchup Show, everybody. Dale, TJ Watt, it appears, is trending in the direction to return to the Steelers lineup on Sunday against the Saints. Is that a cure-all, for the Steelers defense that we've seen struggle in a lot of games in the first half?
It sure doesn't hurt, Missy. I know that. If you look at what they did in the first game of this season against the Cincinnati Bengals, a very explosive Bengals offense. They forced 5 turnovers. They had 7 sacks. You look at it since then, it certainly hasn't been the same. They have 8 sacks in the 7 games since TJ Watt has been out. If you look at the record with and without TJ Watt since he's been with the Steelers, 1-10 without him, and I think it's 52-24 with him. It's pretty significant to get that guy back, and what he does, the trickle-down effect that he has on the rest of the defense that you just heard Teryl Austin talk about. You can't double Cam Hayward, you can't double Alex Highsmith and make them run the gauntlet. So it frees everybody else up. And some of those long passing plays that they're a little bit longer developing that we've seen some teams hit against the Steelers in the first half of the season, maybe those don't happen if TJ Watt's out there, because the opposing team knows that they can't protect for 3 or 4 seconds.
Yeah, that's the key to me. He does a million things, but just dictating what a team will even try to do is pretty special. And Dale, I don't know if you feel the same way, but yeah, I knew TJ Watt was the reigning NFL Defensive Player of the Year, and I knew it was a big loss when he got hurt in Cincinnati, but I never thought it would have the impact and the ripple effect that it had with him being out of the lineup. It was almost a quarterback level of difference-making absence. And, if it was like that without him, there's a good chance it's going to be like it was with him. The Cincinnati game you referenced, how everything seemed to be going according to plan in that regular season opener. I don't know how much he's going to play. If he plays, Teryl Austin talked about not expecting 60 snaps out of him today prior to practice, but you guys both know TJ Watt, when he's out there, he's going to want to be in the game.
Yeah, without a doubt. And if it's 20 snaps of TJ Watt, they'll take it. You know, if it's 25, 30, whatever it might be, just because of what he forces the opponent to do. And, you know, it's very much to your point about losing a quarterback. If you look at the Ravens from last season, Mike, they were 8-3, and then Lamar Jackson went down, and they lost their last 5 games. You know, this is that kind of impact. You know, that's why TJ Watt was voted one of the top 10 players in the NFL, you know, in that NFL 100 list. He's that important to this defense. He's that good of a player that he affects the game in that great of a fashion, and that's why, you know, he's TJ Watt.
With TJ Watt possibly coming back to Monte KZ, Mike, what is a realistic expectation of a performance this defense could put on against the Saints offense and Andy Dalton?
You know, I think there's reason for optimism. New Orleans hasn't been lighting it up. The receivers have been injured. Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry. Chris Olave's pretty good as a rookie, but this Saints offense, it's pretty much going through the running back Alvin Kamara. I think the NFL research stats that I saw this week, since 2021, if Kamara gets 20-plus touches, I believe New Orleans is 9-2, and fewer than that, 3-6. You got to first take away the run, and then you got to have somebody to be able to run with him on the short flat routes he's going to run, or the little bleeds through the line of scrimmage. You know, he's an available receiver. He's not one of those running backs that runs wide receiver routes. You're probably not going to see him out on the wing doing double moves and things of that nature, but he just makes himself available. They try to get him the ball in space, a short throw, and then let him try to make a big play out of it. You take number 41 away, and I think you have a chance to dictate this game. Yeah,
Mike, and it's Andy Dalton as well, quarterbacking this team. Now, he's been better for them than Jameis Winston was, and you know, I think they've stuck with him because he gives them a little more stability. You know, he's not the mad bomber that the Jameis Winston is. He just runs the offense. But the Steelers are 13-3 in his career against Andy Dalton. They're very familiar with this guy. They know, you know, what he likes to do, where he likes to go with the football, and they've had a lot of success against him. So I think that plays a factor in this as well.
All right, it's time for our Yins Chat predictive question of the day. Over, under 2.5 sacks for the Steelers defense on Sunday. You can download the Steelers mobile app and play Yins Chat to win prizes. Questions are updated daily. Mike, what are you taking here?
I'm going to take over. I know the Saints try to get rid of the ball quickly, but they have some offensive line issues, a couple of injuries sustained against Baltimore. Even before the injuries started to happen, that offensive line, it had been very good. Maybe the Ravens just fooled them. Baltimore's pretty exotic on defense, but the Steelers can do some things as well. And what we saw Monday night from that Saints O-line, multiple times, they would have the advantage in terms of number of blockers against number of pass rushers, and you still saw people coming free and either getting Dalton on the ground or flushing him out or otherwise messing up the play. So I think TJ Watt, if he returns, that energizes everybody, and maybe the offense can find a way to play with a lead. That would enhance your chance to get some sacks as well. So I'm going over, Missy.
All right, Dale, what about you?
I'm going over as well, Missy. Again, I would not be surprised if to see TJ Watt get a sack or two in this game. I think, you know, after watching that game against the Ravens that Mike just referenced, they did have some issues, you know, figuring out who was coming and who was not coming. And I think the Steelers will disguise some of those blitzes, but I think they get home with a pass rush of 4 guys. I don't know that they blitz a whole lot, but I think they show it and then back out of it and play coverage, but still find a way to get to the quarterback, because this Saints offensive line is not the Saints offensive line of just a couple of years ago when they had one of the best groups in the league. They're in a transition there up front as well.
All right, one more for you guys since we're talking about TJ Watt and hopeful for his return on Sunday. He has 1 sack. He only played in 1 game. Do you think he'll beat out the rest of the field for the second half of the season, Mike?
If you're going to give me the field against one guy, I'm going to take the field. That's just a percentage play.
All right, all right.
Yeah, I think that's safe to say. I do think he can make a good, strong run at the Steelers' overall sack record, which I think he needs 8 or 9 to pass James Harrison here for that record. So I think that's in jeopardy, but I can't see him catching the field here and, you know, leading the league in sacks again this year in just 10 games.
All right. Well, Steelers and Saints 1 o'clock at Acrisure Stadium on Sunday. Dale and Mike, thanks so much for your time. And thanks everybody at home for watching. We'll see you next time here on the Matchup Show presented by Unibet.